Welcome to Sensibly Cynical. My name is Sean, and today I have an amazing show lined up. We will be talking with Brent from Hysteria 51. It is a podcast that discusses everything paranormal, from aliens to conspiracy theories, etc. This show is amazing, has plenty of followers, and is a show that I have been listening to for a while, so I am excited to hear from Brent. Enjoy the interview. All right, joining me now is one of the co-hosts and producers of Hysteria 51 podcast, Brent Hand. How you doing, Brent?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
No, I'm really excited. Now, as I was telling you off air, you guys are a podcast I've been following for a while, and I have been anticipating talking to you for quite a bit. So
you're the opposite of my wife.
Well, I mean, you guys are the opposite too. You're actually a positive, podcast when it comes to numbers. So
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. Yeah, absolutely.
But give us the origin and how you guys started, and continue from there.
Well, my co-host, his name's John Goforth, and we've known each other for over 30 years now. We grew up together, and we went to college together. We lived as roommates in college for a while, and we always wanted to have a show. We wanted to do, at that time, of course, it was radio, and unfortunately it didn't happen. Life got in the way. He ended up going into the radio business. He was in the marketing side of it. He worked in terrestrial radio for a long time, but we always wanted to do a show. We're friends. We've always stayed in touch. He was living in St. Louis for a long time. He moved back up to Chicago. We were both living in the Chicago area. Like, we should do this podcast thing. The show we were finally going to do. And we loved talking. When we got together, we always loved talking alien conspiracies. And I was one of the one that was into them and always wanted to talk about them. And he was the cynical, the I don't believe, and I don't want to. And so that was like, well, that's the conversations we have. We get in arguments, and everyone always likes listening to them. And it was September of 2019. It was our 3rd year anniversary. We've been doing it for a little over 3 years now, and it's been a long ride. It's been fun.
Yeah, so I guess what I was trying to tell you when I told you we had a guest that was actually at AlienCon. Her name is Jessica Sugar Kuiper. She was actually a Marilyn Monroe impersonator. She said she was at AlienCon. Are you familiar with things sort of like that, like crazy different impersonators and stuff like that?
And I tell you what, so we go to AlienCon, we do a lot of speaking at, the last couple of years we went to Kansas City Paracon, we went to Planet Comic-Con, Wizard World, C2E2s, I've seen the gamut of cosplayers and everything. I tell you what though, AlienCon this year was fun because everyone was dressed up usually they had people as full-fledged aliens. One woman had like this baby alien in a backpack, and it was clear, and it had all these tubes running off it. It's crazy. People go all out.
Right.
More power to them. Out of my wheelhouse, man. I don't have that kind of talent or patience. Plus, I'm a fat guy, I sweat. Who wants to see me walking around running my makeup?
Now tell me about it. So where is it located, and how many would you guess that were there this year?
So it was in LA this year. They do a couple of them now. It's going to be Dallas just passed. There was
right,
and it moves around. But we were in LA, and there was probably a couple thousand people. It's not huge, but it's really new still. And they have a vendor floor. If you've ever been to a Comic-Con or any convention, a horror con, that's pretty much what it's like. And they had vendors that were selling t-shirts, memorabilia, and then of course there's people there reading your palm and giving you fortunes. And Travis Walton's there. Travis Walton's famous. The Fire in the Sky movie was based on his life. And Giorgio Tsoukalos has a booth, and he's selling all his books and wares and stuff like that. And it's interesting, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun just hearing everyone's stories and seeing what they're trying to sell you. Everything from t-shirts to there was people selling colognes and soap that was, alien, really.
Yeah. Yeah, well, speaking of subjects and what you guys talk about, is it like wide, or do you guys narrow when it comes to subjects?
We always talk about, our tagline is, we take an everyman approach to the world weird, or all things weird. It's pretty wide. Aliens, mysteries, the paranormal, the unusual, anything unexplained. But that's not just to pigeonhole into that. We've done some history episode. That's kind of cool, but, aliens are bread and butter. That's where I love talking, those ones are the ones that people, seem to identify with. But, we've had everyone, authors and people that say they can remote view, and people that, own, quote-unquote, haunted places, and do tours and everything in between. So, if it's weird or if it sounds fun, we're willing to talk about it.
Yeah, so do you have a favorite episode? I know, how long have you guys been around, and how many episodes have you done?
So September was our 30th anniversary. We have, I think tomorrow is a Monday, is our 163rd episode. So, one a week for the last 3 years. And that's kind of like, which is your favorite kid? I don't know. There's a lot of them that have been fun. One of my favorite ones, I guess when you say that, the one that popped into my head was an earlier one. It was probably in the 60s, so it's been a couple of years ago. But we did Satanic Panic. I was born in the late 70s. I grew up in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
And the Satanic Panic in the 80s, everything was evil. Everything was, Satan. And looking at music and at art and literature and everything, and it was into this whole fever pitch. And that also ties into things in the 90s, like the West Memphis Three, who went to jail because they wore Metallica shirts and painted their nails black, so obviously they worship Satan and things like that. That was one that was a lot of fun to research, and also kind of struck home because, I identified with those people as a kid, and I also grew up in a very, very strict, religious background, and I remember, people coming into churches and saying, Procter & Gamble is owned by the devil. Stuff like that,
Crazy shit, yeah.
It's crazy, and so those are fun ones. But that was one of my favorite. We did another one, too, the Fermi Paradox, which is the question of, there's so many stars out there, there's so many planets, where are the aliens? And we had Josh Clark. Josh Clark is the host of Stuff You Should Know, and he's also the host of The End of the World with Josh Clark, which are two. Stuff You Should Know is always in competition for the #1 podcast.
Really?
The first podcast to ever hit 1 billion downloads. So,
oh my God.
A fun guy. He'd researched all that, so we talked about
podcast royalty. That's podcast royalty.
Very much so, and just a heck of a nice guy.
Well, you're reciprocating the favor in an even less show, so.
No, this is awesome. I love being on shows. You get to talk to new audience.
So what I was thinking was, since I'm from the Panhandle, so Frank actually wanted me, even though he's not around anymore, he's still checking in. He actually had the question he wanted me to ask you. So. Yeah, so we're actually near Gulf Breeze, Florida.
Gulf Breeze incident.
Yeah, and we've heard that they are the #1 of UFO sightings. Is that true, or is he full of bullshit?
Well, the Gulf Breeze was a huge story as far as that goes. I'm not going to say that you're the #1, but United States is definitely the #1 spot for incidents. If you go to MUFON, you don't even have to be a member. They'll send you their stats every month, and you look through them, and we are leaps and bounds. November of '87 was actually the Gulf Breeze incident, which is one that, people always talk about. It was just a series of UFO sightings back then, and there's a ton of photos that people actually took of them, and so that's been, 32 years ago. And we're still talking about it. So absolutely. Plus, that's over water. You got military bases out there. Even if it's a UFO, doesn't mean alien. UFO just means, unidentified flying object or whatever that means to you. A lot of them are just, that was a drone you didn't realize, or military planes. And there's a reason that they do black ops projects and things like that. And that would be one of the places that if I was doing that, I'd be flying them over that too. Now, that's not making a statement on the Gulf Breeze incident, but...
What do you know about that? Like, what's your full knowledge of what happened?
I know that they took a bunch of photos, and ufologists looked at the photographs and said that the photos that they had taken were genuine. But then others, now that's coming from ufologists, they suspected that they were all a hoax, and... reporters from the area looked at it and said, no, people were making stuff up, or it was all sensationalized, stuff like that. They were later said that, you could make these with household products and fake them. And this is the thing that you get into when you look at previous years before CGI was so prevalent. A lot of times things look like hubcaps or styrofoam or discs, things like that. And people would say you can make that, you can do it at home. And now that we're in an area of CGI, it's a little easier to fake things. And case in point to this incident and something else, a few years ago, I had a gentleman call me, and he cleans out. They own a business where they clean out basements and things like that. And he's like, hey, I was cleaning out a basement, we're hauling stuff away, and there's a box full of slides. He goes, I crap you not, it looks like there is UFOs on them. If I send them to you, will you check them out? I said, sure. And I had them converted from slides to just digital, like the photos.
Right.
Sure enough, it looks like there's UFOs on them, but they're old. I mean, these photos are from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And I actually contacted, at that time, Dr. Chris Cogswell was working for MUFON, and I contacted him and sent him the photos, and what they deemed them to be, or what they were, was like early fakes where they were learning how to double expose photos. And this was someone's stash of photos where they were learning how to try to fake photos. And they were in a basement in a house in Springfield, Illinois. Back then, that's how you had to do it, is you had to, double expose, throw something in the air and take a photo of it. It was a little easier, but that didn't always make the best photos.
Right. So
there was a talent to it. It's just crazy that you even come across something like that. Now, it would have been a lot cooler if it was like some smoking gun and I found a stash of real photos of UFOs. But,
yeah.
No such luck.
Well, I noticed you guys are from Chicago, right?
Yeah. I'm originally from Central Illinois. Now we both live. John's in the city, and I'm in a suburb about 5 minutes from the city.
All right. Well, I'm a Cubs fan. How about that?
Oh my goodness. John and I are both St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, so we got a rivalry here. Well, don't hang up on me, all right? Don't hang up.
I'll tell you what, it was fun to see them win. Up here, man, huge party. It was really fun.
Well, what's funny is about that is my dad's side, they're basically inherently rivals. Like on my dad's two sisters, one's a Cardinals fan, one's a Cubs fan, and then the rest are really Cub fans. But there's some Cardinal families in there. So there's a lot of families like that where you got one sister or one brother is a Cardinal fan, and then the other one's a Cub fan. And on top of that, my mom's side is all Cub fans because they met in Illinois, and then we moved to Florida for the space program. My dad got a job in the space program. And
that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, he was a contractor for NASA. So, they're from small town Illinois, like Peoria area.
Yes, I'm from. So Peoria was about an hour and a half. I grew up on a farmland area right outside of Springfield. I was actually outside of a town of 700 people.
Okay, so I can probably give you their two actual cities, and I bet you know at least one of them.
Sure.
You want to play that game?
Sure, where is it?
Canton, Illinois.
I know Canton. I've been there a million times. Absolutely.
This one you may not know. Good old Glassford, Illinois.
Don't know it.
Yeah.
Don't know that.
Middle of nowhere.
I'm from a town called Pleasant Plains.
Okay. Glassford's kind of unique. It's kind of you go down a hill and everything's right there, but the only way to get in is like through this hill, and the reception isn't very good, and there's Main Street, and I come from a background, my mom's side, where the guy was a welder. That was his job back then. My grandfather, God rest his soul, but that's how guys did over there. In rural Illinois.
Yeah, it's crazy. In some of these small towns, they're a long way from anywhere large, and the town welder is the town welder. Like, that's who everyone uses or goes to, and that's how they're sufficient. And we've come so far, but you still see that here in America, in Illinois. You can still find that in these small towns in the middle of nowhere. You're like, holy cow.
Illinois is really full of them. I know a lot of states are, but Illinois, you'll find a lot of them, right?
Well, it's funny. They always say, everything. There's Chicago, and then there's the rest of Illinois.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
Different, very different area. Chicago is a very modern and liberal place. The rest of it is a little less and more conservative areas, and it's just a funny dichotomy of how it works. But 80% of the population is in Chicago.
Well, let's transition to the topic that I'm sure you're waiting for, Storm 51. Now, what's your take on that? And basically, it's your go. Like, what's your thoughts on all that? And start from the beginning.
Funny enough, my wife and I have actually been to Rachel, Nevada, which is where the little Alien is. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's the famous little diner outside of Area 51. And we've been to the gate that they were going to storm. And it's so funny because if you would have had people that actually tried to storm Area 51, when you cross that border, that gate, you're like 12 miles from the next building. It's not something that's going to happen. And that was what was so funny. It's hilarious to me because it was just a meme. It was just but it was just a funny, hey, let's do this. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And the unfortunate thing that happened with it is people started to try to make money off of it.
Right.
The guy who put it on originally, who made the Facebook event, his name was Matty Roberts.
He was like, I don't want to try to make money off this. I want to keep it, quote unquote, pure.
Well, there was other people that were going to try to do shows and have DJs and all this stuff. Well, come to find out, when it comes to it, hardly anyone shows up, and they actually canceled day 2 of the whole festivities. And it's just sad, and out there in the middle. Rachel is 90-ish miles one way to get there.
Well, they were making some money, right? I mean, there was like 4 times capacity, so there was money involved. But
there is. But you were talking about. So Rachel is literally a trailer park. It's not a town.
Yeah.
And it's a trailer park that's owned by the little Alien. So there's 5 or 6 probably trailers that actually have people that live there, and the rest are trailers for people that want to go out there and go stargazing or try to spot black.
So obviously it's unincorporated,
They don't have gas. They don't have water for you. The only place out there is the little Alien where you can stop and grab a burger.
Yeah, and they probably gotta go quite a bit just to vote. I mean
to do anything. Now, if you keep going, if you turn around and you go back the other, the way you came, you get to Las Vegas. Going the other way, it takes you to Tonopah, which is that there's a famous place on the way to Tonopah. It's the Clown Motel. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It's oh my gosh, you have to Google it. If your listeners should Google it, just Google Clown Motel. Everything is clown related, but like scary, weird. Everything's got a clown head on it, and it's just in the middle of nowhere. It's exactly where you expect to die.
Well, I mean, if you're going, I mean that's pretty funny. Not the dying part, but
Someone else was like, I got an idea. It's clowns, and it's a motel, and they're like, yeah, let's do that. This Area 51 it was awesome to go there. When we went, I'm glad I did. We took some fun photos.
Oh yeah, you went, huh?
Well, we didn't go to the Storm Area 51, but I went with my wife previously we ate at the Little Alien. This was a few years ago, and we got pictures at the black mailbox and at the gates at Area 51, and it's a fun thing to do, but then you realize kind of how lackluster it is also, because there's nothing there, other than the fact that you realize this is in the middle of nowhere, and you're not supposed to be here. There's no reason for you to be there other than that. But, and they did have some people show up at the gate that night, but talking about a couple dozen people showed up. Not exactly the Naruto runners running past the gate and storming to clap them alien cheeks, as they said.
Right, so when it comes to extraterrestrial, do you think there's any scientific proof, or is this all like a joke from everybody involved? Or is there you think there's any scientific proof that there's some extraterrestrial activity? Or is this all just myths and people, busting balls?
Are there aliens?
Well, I'm just saying, like, do you know of any scientific information out there, like, recently?
Well, scientifically speaking, I think it's silly, and this is something that came into the cultural narrative, that it's silly to think that we're alone, one way or another. All they got to do is find a microbe, which, they act like they're getting close to on Mars. And that's going to kind of blow a door open to what's out there. The problem, this is something that they discuss in the Fermi paradox and things like that, is the vastness of space. For us to be able to travel to other stars, and more importantly, for someone else to be able to come to us, you're going to have technology that defies our understanding of the laws of physics today as we know it. Or you've been traveling for so long that, by the time you get here, who knows what has changed to your species. Someone could have seen us when the dinosaurs were still roaming and they're headed here, and that was 65 million years ago. They were, light years away, hundreds of light years away. They're still coming. If they're going slow, that's kind of one of those things you think about. Do I think that aliens exist? I absolutely do. What do I think it is? Do I think that they're controlling the strings and pulling things and stuff? I don't think so. As far as in the news and what science is saying now, though, you've got to the Stars Academy making some bold claims.
Right.
The Tic Tac video was pretty important as of late. That's not saying that is an alien craft, but it was, a lot of people say, doing weird things. The other thing that TTSA has came out with is this, I don't know if you've seen this material
that they say was manufactured that is not from Earth, and that's been in the news. They've been talking about, and they're getting a government contract to try to study it. Well, this material has been around for a very long time. Art Bell hosted Coast to Coast originally, and then he had his own show somewhere in the desert, and he owned that material. He gave it to a woman named Linda Moulton Howe. She had that material for a long time, and it just blows my mind that if this is real alien material, why have they been sitting on it for so long, and just now is this door being blown wide open? Where are the tests? And there should be easy tests to tell you if this is just slag off of some sort of process that we have now, or if it's really refined elements that don't exist on Earth, because that's a hell of a statement. And they're masquerading it as that's what it is. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, and rightfully so.
Yeah, what's your favorite documentary? Do you have...
There's not a ton that I love, and I've watched quite a few. One of my favorites, I think, is probably Mirage Men, and they tell the story of Richard Doty. Richard Doty was an United States Air Force officer, and he had information that he had been intercepting, getting what now was pretty much drones that they were working on. And he thought that one had crashed, and he had thought that it was aliens. So the government said, well, if he wants aliens, show him aliens. Richard Doty literally took him and showed him where this had crashed, and they added stuff to make it look like an alien crash site. And they messed with this guy so much, and they told him that the NSA was living across the street from him, or maybe it was the FBI, I don't remember. Anyway, he ended up going crazy and spent the rest of his life in a mental institution.
Really?
It's the story of just how the military did this, and how, not only that, how they also dabbled in disinformation, feeding to people who were ufologists in the 80s and told them, well, we're going to give you information, and you're going to be the only one privy to it, because you're going to give other people disinformation for us, and you're the only one in the know. And then come to find out it's all fake, and they were pulling the narrative and the strings. And this documentary, Mirage Men, really delves into that. It's very worth watching. There's stations out there, Gaia, and a lot of other documentaries that just are trash as far as I'm concerned. A gentleman who's been very popular lately, Jeremy Corbell, he's been on our show. He did the recent Bob Lazar documentary.
Right.
And he did one called Patient 17 about alien implants. Patient 17, I think, is an interesting documentary. The Bob Lazar one's interesting too. It's Bob Lazar. If you're familiar with the Bob Lazar story, Bob's the one who actually put Area 51 on the map. I didn't think it was record-breaking groundbreaking or super any crazy new information, but it was a well done documentary, so that's something to check out if people are interested in that. But it's the new from Jeremy Corbell. But hands down, Mirage Men is my favorite. And you can see one of my favorite things in there is I was talking about the disinformation from the 80s. You can see a MUFON meeting from the 80s where one of the gentlemen that was being force-fed the disinformation just comes out and being like, yeah, I've been lying to you, and everything I've been telling you is wrong, and people are just like, oh. It's a convention, and people are just losing their minds. So that was an interesting one.
So you have how many? So you said that how many are in your production team, or is this like a huge team?
No. So John and I do the show together. We're co-hosts, and I produce and edit the show myself.
Okay, you do it yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I do it myself. We do have a research assistant. His name is Ray Walden. He helps us out with research. And then that's it. So we're just a one-man operation. We were with iHeart for a while. We actually just left a couple months ago. So yeah, back to an independent show.
Dun dun dun. Yeah.
The grass isn't always greener, I'll say that.
Well.
No, I didn't want to say that. But
well, it beats. You guys are more along than I am. So, but no. Where do you see the future? Are you guys just gonna keep beating the same drum, finding
We're doing some changes next year. Actually, it's kind of interesting. We're just announcing that tomorrow. I don't know when this will come out, but
probably not tomorrow.
We're going a little bit deeper dive into 2 episodes. We're doing instead of every week, we're going to do 10 episodes and 3 weeks off. 10 episodes, 3 weeks off. So we can have a little bit more time to research every episode, and I'm going to write half of the outlines. John's going to do, and we're researching everything together, and then we're going to trade off.
Yeah.
Both going to do new research, rewrite it, so it gets both of our views and being better, and then having Ray helping us out with the background research on everything is going to be nice. One of the things we did last year that was a big hit with our listeners is we did a kind of like an audio drama. Just like a Hysteria 51 adventure. It had nothing to do with the normal where we sit down and we talk about a topic. It was like an audio drama. It was produced by a gentleman named Michael Gonzalez, who he runs Radio Los Angeles, and they did a fantastic job. We had so much fun, and he wrote it and produced it and everything. So we're doing more of those. So I said it was 10 shows, 3 off. 10 shows, 3 off.
Yeah.
It'll be 10 shows, 1 week off, radio drama. 1 week off, 10 shows, and then again, 1 week off, radio drama. I hate saying radio drama, but...
Do you guys have one of the typical, platforms? Or, because I use Podbean. Do you guys... Now, what do you guys do for that, platforms?
We were with a company called Megaphone, and that's who hosted for iHeartRadio, all their shows, things like that.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, well, they're an enterprise one, so... It's a little bit different. You can't be just a show to go to them. You have to be... we are going to a company called Spreaker.
Yep, I've heard of them.
Yeah, we're going to them, and we'll be one of their Spreaker Prime shows. So we're on their private network.
Well, they're not shabby, though, because I knew they're kind of... I wouldn't say they're expensive, but they're definitely not, in the cheaper one, right?
There's, it depends on where you're at.
I don't want you to talk down about your new. I don't want you to talk down about your new partner, though. But
I don't know what it costs because we don't pay for it. They
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Right, we're on Podbean. If I can get this, my downloads aren't nearly what they should be after 2 years, like I said. But if I can somehow get them to the point where, there's a financial, then I'm gonna do it. I told myself, I said, hey, listen, since I'm going solo, I have to branch out to podcasts like you. I have to, because if you're going solo, you need a lot of guests. Because
one of the best things I ever did, I always said, was 2 things when we were starting out. Trying to talk to other shows to get guests on, have them on, going on shows to be a guest, and the other thing was trading bumpers and promos. We reach out to shows and say, hey, I love your show. I'd love to do a bumper swap and stuff like that. We've done that, and it's been great.
Is there any episode of ours that you've listened to? You can tell me no. That's fine.
I hate to say that. I have not.
Well, you need to. We have some good ones.
Yes. What's your favorite? You asked me mine. What's your favorite?
You have to listen to The Stripper Comedian. That's the one that I tell everybody about. It has our best downloads. Christy Monroe, The Stripper Comedian. Hands down.
So, is she like a touring act? Like I could look for her up, or does she like work out of one place?
No, she's legit. Yeah, she's touring. She's most of her stuff is like she headlines some stuff, but most of the time she's like the secondary act. But like smaller venues, she's a headliner. It depends on the bigger venues, she's a supporting. But like if you're in Danville, Virginia, hypothetically, I don't care. I'll pick a random city. But if you're in like a smaller city, she's a headliner. But yeah, it's basically what you thought. She strips on the weekdays and then makes fun of herself on the weekends.
That's hilarious.
And she trolls her own business.
Man, I want to see the show where she's telling jokes while stripping. Is that something I can go to see?
She does, yeah, she does stuff like that. Yep, that's part of her act too, is she'll strip, she'll take I don't want to give her spiel away, but she's a friend of the show. She's done a couple acts where she'll actually bring a person up there and strip in front of them and stuff. But, yeah, and then she...
Downloading this as we speak.
She's in, oh, you found it? No, I mean, it's good. She's, I'm typical humor guy, but that's our best one. And also, of course, we have Sugar, who's on Survivor. That's done pretty well. But so yeah, we have Sugar, who's on Survivor. Those are probably the top two. But anyways, back to Hysteria 51. Now, you said you have a lot of episodes. Now, is there ones that I guess I wouldn't say you regret, but ones that were just crazy ideas that you just tried off the wall and that weren't successful?
I hate to say regret. Our first ones when we started the show, we were just, hey, let's make a show. Let's see if we can do it. We had a lot of fun. The sound quality's terrible. It sounds bad. And we've wrestled back and forth with, should we delete those? And I don't think so. We've left them up, and we had two gentlemen on that were flat earthers, and so we called it the Flat Earth Roundtable. And it was John and I.
Right.
Two gentlemen who were flat earthers. It degraded to nonsense immediately because there was nothing you could say to the flat earthers that they would not just dismiss or bash or have issue with. And that was unfortunate. And,
they made fun of us. So I said we had a gentleman who worked for SpaceX. He worked in security, and they made fun of him. They're like, "Whoa, you're going to bring in Janner?" I'm like, and he goes like, "No." They asked me on because you've said that SpaceX only uses holograms and they have no real rockets, was one of their statements. He's like, so I'm here to invite you to, that was in Florida as well. He's like, I can get you on as close as you can get, and you can see the rockets before and touch the rockets beforehand, and then it's like 3 miles away or whatever it is. You can watch we're sending you an invitation. And they said no.
I cringe. I've tried to listen to them, and it's so funny because people will come on, they'll be like, I tried to listen to your Flat Earth episodes, but I had to turn it off because they were just so repulsive. And I'm like, yeah, it's unfortunate.
Let's talk about, what do you think about, like Paranormal Activity type stuff? Paranormal Activity, the movies and stuff?
Not a believer. John is not a believer. I grew up in a house. We had weird things happen. I've had some experiences in my life. I've never seen a ghost or anything like that. But I don't know what I believe, but I believe. I've heard things. I've had experiences. And I've talked to enough people that I believe what they're saying. The problem is a lot of those things can also be explained away in just like misidentification of aircraft, for UFOs and things like that. The problem I have with paranormal stuff,
right?
A lot of these shows on television, I think, are just trash, and they're just people trying to, what was that? Zach Baggins. I hate to name someone, but oh man, bro, Zach, oh man, I'm getting sick, bro.
Yeah.
And it just seems so disingenuous, and maybe it's not. Maybe I'm way off base, but Zach, if you want to come talk to me, you can tell me how I'm wrong. But it's to me. That is doing a disservice to it because I know a lot of individuals that are into that.
Josh Hurd comes to mind. He owns a property that was an old hospital, and they just do tours. You can go in there and you can do tours, and he's crazy because he's great because he talks about it. He's like, unfortunately, when people tell me stories, I'm like, yeah, right. He goes, but then again, I'm here doing this and letting people go and experience what they want to experience, and do hunts and tours and stuff like that. So obviously he believes in it, but it's easy to be cynical. And it's easy to be cynical when it didn't happen to you.
Hey, Sensibly Cynical. There you go. We cynical all the time.
Someone's got a good name. Got a podcast.
Yeah. So, I know you said that you guys are, doing a lot of things with the coming up, and
yeah, I'm writing a book right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of a slow process. I say I'm writing a book. I've got pages and pages and pages of outlines and notes, and then we've been writing, and I'm nowhere near done. But that's one of my pet projects that I'm working on. Another thing, I would love to say that we end up with a TV show or something like that.
Right. That's one of the goals.
Well, it's definitely not one of them, and it's stuff that we've explored, and hopefully one day that might come to fruition. But we do live shows also, and we're doing some touring next year. We got some shows in, of course, Illinois and Indiana and Virginia, and we're going to be adding some more shows to that. And I'd love to do more of that. I'd love to go to at least one show a month eventually, and so maybe, unfortunately, that's not going to be the case for 2020, but maybe 2021. That's something that we're going to shoot for, is a lot more, or maybe a real tour where we're gone for 3 weeks and we're doing it up. So we'll see, but that's definitely on the horizon, and just more meetups and live shows and stuff like that in the Chicagoland area too, because we're gonna have fun doing that.
Right. Now, how big are these episodes? You ever do like huge episodes? Like how big are your episodes?
You mean like how long are they?
Yeah.
We're done as a two-parter, so we haven't done because I think that they need more to be looked into than that. We were just really looking into doing the Martin Luther King assassination. That's a call actually that's fresh in my mind. John and I talked about that today, and it's just like, I think that this needs to be a 6-parter from what our research is. I'm not ready to do that, and I don't think I could do it justice doing it in 2-parters. We try to keep it down to 2, and we don't even do that many multi-parters. If you miss a week, you didn't hear the first one. A lot of times people don't listen and things like that.
Yeah.
I like variety. Variety's the spice of life. Every week, it's fun to have something different, and we try to have fun. Our show, at the end of the day, it's a comedy show. Fart jokes into a microphone about aliens.
Yeah. What do you think of the Alien vs Predator movies?
Oh, I love the original Predator.
Yeah.
And the Alien movies. I didn't really love them. I liked the idea of the last one, Predator, whichever the last one was.
Right. Yeah.
Alien versus, but the 2 Alien vs Predators were kind of letdowns to me. What is his name? Lance Briggs or what? The guy who played Bishop in Alien, that was in Charles Bishop Wayland.
Yeah.
Versus Predator. I love him.
Right.
And I love his character in the first Alien vs Predator. I love the look of the Predators in that one. It kind of fell flat to me. I would love to sit here and tell you, oh man, it was fantastic, but it wasn't to me. It's one of those things where you want to like it.
Yeah.
When you really, there's nothing wrong with that.
So what do you have? Do you have any advice for people that are doing podcasts that your size, that ones that are trying to expand?
Number one, if you're just starting out, start. That's one of the hardest things. Start. If you're going to be with a partner, if you're going to do it yourself, record it, edit a couple, throw them away. Start over. One of the things that is good to do is try to stay on a schedule, get ahead, always have some in the back burner so you're ready to go. Right now, I think I have 5 episodes not edited, so you can do that. And reach out to other shows. If one of the best ways to grow is to be a part of the community. Reach out to other shows and say, hey, let's swap, or do you want to be on my show? I'll be on your show. Ask. That's a huge one. And there's a huge community, and reach out and be part of those communities. And I have a whole folder of shows that ran their ads or they've ran ours, and reaching out. I went to Podcast Movement and met everyone I could. And John has done that. He's gone to so many events, even without me, that I haven't gone to, just willing to do it. People reciprocate. People will love it. And podcasting is such it's an art form to some people. You know, it's like you feel like you're putting your world out there, and it's tough because sometimes people just crap on it. They go, oh, and you get bad reviews. And you're like, hey, you know, I'm just putting it out there. So there are always hurdles to it and things like that. You have to have a little bit of thick skin. Fun. If you're not having fun, don't do it. You know, I'm having a blast. I never envisioned 5 years ago my life being here to where I'm doing this for a living, and now I am, and I'm very, very, very thankful for it. And I try to stay on top of it.
What's your demographic of listener? Do you guys have a certain one, or is it all over?
Definitely male. The last time that they did a demographic thing for us, it was 72% male.
Right.
And the listener base is 22 to like 49. It was a weird, I forget the breakdown, or 44. So males that are...
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
Now, that's all over the place, too. There's a lot of other ones. But
right.
That's your at least that age group is your main consumer of podcasts in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think our topics skew us towards male. If we were doing true crime, that'd be all female, because that's who, you know, eats up true crime.
What's been the hardest thing about continuing, you know, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Like, what's the hardest part about continuing this? Like, not stopping? Is that the hardest part, just having the drive? Or do you love doing what you're doing so it's easy?
Well, you know, but you plateau. We're lucky that we always, you know, usually grow, and you plateau out sometimes, and you're trying to think of things to help the show and make the show grow. And I think a lot of people, if that goes on for too long, they just go, meh, I don't want to do it. And that's the thing, is just make sure you're doing it. Do it for yourself. You know, that's what we said. Let's make a show that we want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And if other people listen, then that's just icing on the cake, and that's what we've been trying to do. And we've had at least a modicum of success, and that's been great for us. But it doesn't have to be. This isn't my first podcast. We tried another before, and it fell on its face. It didn't work out. You know, I have other friends that have done shows that didn't work out, and I have a lot of friends that do shows that blow ours out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a friend of mine, Ben Bolin. He hosts Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. They're gigantic. He would sneeze at, you know, at the numbers and the things that we do. But they're also great people, you know. There's all these walks of life out there that...
Is there a big market, or are you competing with, like, others that do exactly the same thing, or are you unique?
I think people compare us to other shows sometimes. We're definitely not Last Podcast to the Left. But we do have a humor to us, very different type of show. That's one of the shows that people like to lump us in with. Another larger show that we're very similar as far as topic-wise, Sofa King podcast. They're great guys. We're friends with them, and you know, it's just a fun show. But there's always competition. There's, you know, in doing what we do, I guess you would call it a paranormal show. There's no paranormal genre when you go to iTunes. It's not something you can pick.
Sure.
You have to be in arts, or you have to be in society and culture, or things like that.
Well, you guys are in comedy, right? You're the comedy category?
We are in arts, comedy, and society and culture, so you pick three.
Right, yeah, we're society, culture, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where I wish there was one that was just like the paranormal, because then you can kind of see where you're, you know, how the other shows stack up and things like that. And I think that is something that hopefully will come one day. iTunes is definitely going down as far as size and
yeah, well, I would like to.
But Spotify and things are taking over.
Yeah, I would like to work with you more going in the future. I mean, it'd be really cool if we stayed in touch, you know.
Please do. That's important, you know. And we're always active. We have our Facebook pages, and we're on Twitter. I'm terrible at Twitter. That's one of the things that, you know, our group has helped us grow. I'm very active in our Facebook group. It's called Hysteria Nation. It's just been great.
Do you guys have Patreon? Like, you have pay? It's pay, right? So what's your levels?
So for everything, all of our extra stuff starts at $1. So if you pay $1, Every week we post an old radio drama. Then we call it Up All Nights, which are just extra episodes. Sometimes it's just we close up a show, then we keep the mics rolling and just keep talking. Sometimes it's specific topics that we wanted to do that we weren't going to just do a whole show on, an hour. Lots of those. Our tiers, though, as far as they go, they start at $1, and that gets you all the extra stuff. $2 is stickers. $5 it is. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think here. I think it is. What is $5? Oh my gosh, I don't remember. $50 is a poster, and we have like 10 buttons.
Right.
Like for $15 you get those. Koozie. $5 is.
Oh, the koozie. Yeah. What I'll do if we ever get there, I'll probably just do the $1. You get a sticker, and maybe some funny. Sensible. What I'll probably end up doing is I'll probably make you the option of you can get a sensible or cynical thought, your choice, something like that.
Yeah. We had someone reach out to me recently. He's like, "You're really missing out the mark." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "You got $1, you get 2, and you have 5." He goes, "You need to make a tree fitty." And when someone, because I always make the joke that I can't draw, he's like, if someone gives you $3, he sends you a picture of the Loch Ness monster. I'm like, sure enough, I'll do it. I did it, and we've had a bunch of people sign up for it. So they sent them my pictures of the Loch Ness monster.
So what do you say to people that think the whole alien thing is just a joke, extraterrestrial? What do you say to those people who think it's an absolute joke? That, because I know you said earlier you do believe in aliens. What do you say to those people who just say, hell no way in?
I mean, everyone has that option.
Yeah, but what makes you think there is? Like,
I think that it's crazy to think that aliens is. I'm not saying that there's a society that's coming to us. To say that there is no other life beyond Earth, I think, is just ridiculous. Yeah, a microbe is life. I think the vastness of. There's more stars than there are a couple, flecks of sand on all the beaches.
Right.
It's a crazy thing to think of. There's trillions of stars out there. And how many of them have planets? And to say that none of them are habitable by something is to me, to science, most, now when you talk to scientists, even NASA said recently it's not an if, it's a when. And I think that's an important thing. But our show, you don't have to believe these stories that we talk about.
Right, it's like, it's just like, it's really just a comedic escape, right?
Telling you the story, and you can make up your mind. We make up our mind at the end of it. I'm going to tell you if I believe it or not. And half the time or more, I don't. And same with John, even in a higher amount. But we still tell you the facts of the story. Let you make it up your mind yourself and have fun, hopefully, along the way.
Do you have a lot of people that have been with you since the beginning? A lot of listeners who've just been loyalists?
Well, the Hysteria Nation's been a big part of that because it's been our Facebook group. And so you talk to these people and you become friends with them. You talk to these people all the time. And so you've had these relationships that you've built over now, 3 years for us. And people come and go, or they leave and they come back. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And seeing the same people, and we're always posting stupid crap and memes, and so it's a blast.
Okay. TV shows. So what's your favorite, on-demand TV show out there? I know Netflix has a few, right?
I watch such little TV. We canceled our cable. My wife and I canceled our cable about a year ago, and just we got a what's it called? A Fire Cube. Instead of
Fire Stick?
Fire Cube. It's bigger and it's got a hard drive.
Really?
It's similar, and it's like $10 more. It's nothing. It's one of those things. And so we watch a lot of stuff like that. But I don't know. I watch Netflix. I loved a show that just came out recently that I loved. I watched The Voice.
Yes, I'm a big Voice person. I love The Voice.
And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've been watching.
Are you America's Got Talent person?
No.
No? Yeah, you're not missing.
See, that stuff I don't watch as much, and I do a lot of research, and since it's
well, that's a lot of. Yeah, if you listen to some of we've had comedians on this show. That's probably our most common guest. Obviously, Chrissy Monroe. We've had a few comedians that are just on the cusp of making it, like Austin Mann, Raj Sharma, guys, local comedians. So they're not national, but they're local. I mean, they're not bad. They headline. It's similar. We've had a lot of people like that in our show, Brent, where it's people that are just big enough to headline a local act, But if Austin Mann, he was really cool. He was really cool to come onto the show. But, and I'm not trying to be mean to Austin, but he'd probably be on Laugh Factory, but you know what I'm saying. We've had a lot of guys right on the cusp, and and of course, as a podcast who's still growing, we'll take what we can get when it comes to that. I'm a big comedy guy, so that's what I'm going to be leaning towards. That, and of course, I can talk about sports all day, every day. I know too much about sports, so obviously I'm going to lean on that for content, because I can talk about sports without. Brent, I can talk about a sports podcast with absolutely no notes. I can just straight up talk about sports podcast. I can give you 2 minutes about NFL without even needing any sort of prep.
That's John, my co-host.
I can just straight up do it.
But that's awesome, though. It's I just sports.
You're not a big sports guy?
I watch Blackhawks. I pay attention.
Of course, Chicago team.
Cardinals are doing, but no, I don't really. We watched most of the Bears game today.
I mean, Chicago has solid teams. I mean, I'm a big soccer guy, so the Fire are still around. So I mean, Chicago's always pretty solid. Bears, Bulls. You said you were born in the 70s, right? So you were big. So did you actually see? I know you say you're not a big sports guy, but you remember the Michael Jordan era, right?
Very much so. I was a huge Bulls fan then.
Yeah, so what do you remember about Michael Jordan? Like, do you remember all the news and headlines and stuff? Do you remember any of that?
I lived in Central Illinois, so it wasn't here. It wasn't quite as, it was still huge. But Michael Jordan was, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest of all time.
I mean, yeah.
A story about him today. He was talking about, played like 36 holes one day, and they drank like a case of beer. And that night, they bet him, you're going to be dogging it. And he scored 52 points, and they blew out the Cavs. This was in the 90s. My wife and I were eating, this is about a year ago, we were eating at a steakhouse. It's like a lunch, it's nothing fancy or anything like that. And Scottie Pippen sat next to us.
Really?
Yeah, that was kind of cool, but he was, the guy that he was with was talking to the people at the table next to us. He went over and was talking to them. They're like, can we say hi to Scottie? And he's like, no, you don't want to do that. So I sure as heck wasn't going to, but yeah.
Yeah. So what else do you do for fun, Brent? Like, what kind of hobbies do you have?
Oh, cars, man. That's my big thing.
You're a big car guy.
Yeah, Pontiac. I've grown up around, Trans Ams. I've had tons of them. Trans Am, Formula Firebirds. So right now I have two. I'm big third gens are your.
Really? So if you won the lottery tomorrow, hypothetically, what car would you buy?
92 Firehawk.
Damn. Yeah.
And if I had a second car, it's an 89 Turbo Trans Am.
Wow. Straight up.
The Maseratis or the Lamborghinis.
Were you in any of those car shows? I know there was some car shows out there, right? Do you watch any of those?
Oh, we go to car shows all the time. We travel to some shows. So I've got two. My wife and I have we have 6 cars.
Yeah, but do you watch any TV shows on it, or you just go to the actual?
I don't watch as much. One of my cousins actually, her husband actually works for Mecum Auto Auctions.
Sure.
So I watched some of those where they're doing the selling of the shows. And I used to watch every once in a while. So I don't have cable anymore. I used to watch.
Yeah, I don't have cable either.
Yeah, or I don't have anything, and so, but we used to watch Gas Monkey and some other things here and there. I used to love waking up, and you got nothing to do on a Saturday, and you watch all the different shows that are on there, welding up a 4x4 on one, and then the next, what channel is that on? The Speed Channel or Speed Network or whatever. But yeah, no, so that's my big thing. Like, I love working on cars, and the older I get, the less I want to work on them, the more I just want to enjoy them.
Yeah, I lived in Virginia for a while, and funny story real quick. Basically, this car show just took over a random mall. Like, there wasn't too much ad placement. It just took over the parking lot of a random mall. I love those because you get the diehard guys and girls, not just guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we live in an area that's really cool as far as during the summer months they do a lot of just cruise-ins, less of a show and more of a, just everyone parks and there's a bunch of places you go eat and things like that, one a month, and all the cities around us do them and they're on different days, and so that's fun. That's a lot of fun.
Well, did you hear that Chevy and Buick and they're cutting down on old cars? They're getting rid of the Impala. Did you hear about that?
Oh man, they're always,
Yeah, 2020 is the last Impala.
I'm a Pontiac fan. They axed it years ago, so Oldsmobile's gone.
What do you think about that? Like,
you'd love to complain. I hated it when they did it, but people aren't buying them.
Yeah.
And they're buying, more foreign cars. Pontiac actually outsold Buick, but it didn't outsold Buick in foreign markets.
Really?
That was a bit weird. Yeah, so they should have gotten rid of Buick instead of Pontiac, but that's just me complaining.
Yeah.
But, it's what are you going to do? And now everything's moving towards electric, and Tesla. And I just saw this week for conversion, they have an electric motor that actually is shaped like an engine block so that it can be put into, like, retrofitted into cars. And they're talking about that'll be something that they're going to start offering, that you can retrofit. And now if you do it, you got to gut car and do all this crazy stuff. That's going to be something interesting that people are going to start doing here in the next few years. So, icons and stuff like the Impala going bye-bye.
So back to your podcast real quick. How do you keep material going? Who does the creative process, or is it a group thing?
No, we get together. So I'm sitting actually right now. We have a whiteboard on the wall, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 topics that we haven't done, that we haven't even started.
Really?
We have Excel spreadsheets that we.
Oh my God.
Man, there's like 200 of them that I want to get to. Plus, another one that we love to do is listeners.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Hey, I want to hear this, I want to hear that.
Yep. Do you actually get, you take video messages or get guests on, or any listener?
Messages from, I guess they could if they wanted to email us, but we do, they'll send us, we also have a voicemail number, and people can call into the show and leave us voicemails. It's a little behind. John's been off for a couple weeks, so I'm not playing. And it went where we were getting 1 or 2 here and there, and we'd always play, but now there's just hundreds of them in there because people started calling in, and so it's such a daunting thing. Through, and you're like, you open up, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many,
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's fun to hear people call in and do that.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have anything to promote? You can just promote whatever you want on here.
Just, Hysteria 51, if you want any of our links, you can go to hysteria51.com. It's very easy to find. If you are on Facebook, you want to check out our group, it's Hysteria Nation. Just search Hysteria Nation, you can find us on there. You can tweet to us at Hysteria51Pod. And if you are in the Chicagoland area, by any chance, December 7th, we're going to be at a bar called Cigars and Stripes. And it's going to be a meet and greet, and we have a band, an awesome Chicago-based band called Majungus, and they do alien-themed rock. How awesome is that? And they're a lot of fun. They're going to be playing. And then if you want to see us live, like I said, Hysteria51.com has links to some of our live shows that we have booked, and tickets are available on Eventbrite.
All right, Brent, thank you for your time tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
All right, take care. Now it is time for my sensible thought. I want to thank Brent from Hysteria 51 for coming on the podcast today. Also, if you have any ideas for us to talk about on the show, or want to send us an ad for us to play on the show, email us, sensiblycynicalpodcast@gmail.com. Also, you can always tweet us, Cynical Sensibly, Instagram, Sensibly Cynical Pod, and of course our Facebook group. If you could please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, it would be highly appreciated. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dawn Damari, host of A Teaspoon of Healing podcast. On my show, people share their healing journeys, and I chat with nutrition, wellness, and Reiki experts. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, and wherever you get your podcasts, or go to my website, teaspoonofhealing.com.